Chapter 2. Saved, not spared. Some rescues don't feel like salvation. Earth, Roswell, New Mexico. Anno Domini, December 29th, 2010. Lena heard voices, felt hands on her body, a pink flash of light so bright it lit the surrounding air, the smell of smoke, the taste of blood, confusion, noise. Cold. Moist air permeated every inch of her. She couldn't move. Her vision blurred and her ears buzzed. In and out of consciousness, she floated. Sasha cried out in the distance. Lena's eyes flew open in horror when she tried to call out but couldn't, tried to move but was immobile. Panic took hold of her. Her babies! Where the hell were her babies?
She's awake,
a female voice said, laced with urgency. Lena tried to focus on the woman, but quickly gave up when all that floated in front of her was a pink ethereal light.
Cliven!
The male voice was anxious.
Where are you? Cliven!
In her confused state, Lena couldn't place the man's accent, and attempting to do so exhausted her. It was all she could do just to keep her eyes open. Why couldn't she move or speak?
She needs blood,
shouted the woman.
By the all, rescue the bantlings!
Where has he gone?
Hold her still.
By the Eternal One, where is he? I cannot find him.
Lena tried to see who was speaking over her, but the night was too dark, fog or smoke. She couldn't tell which obscured her already compromised sight. She could only make out moving shadows. A different blackness tried to steal her sight, but she fought against the faint. Her heart cried out in desperation. Were her children hurt?
Calm yourselves,
barked a voice of command.
I am well.
An enormous shadow hovered over her, and she tried desperately to make out his features. Even in her confused state, Lena recognized his air of authority. Whatever happened to her now was up to him.
We have to go. She needs blood, and even then there's no guarantee. I've never seen a head injury this severe where the patient survived.
Yet she is with us still. Do not will her into the grave with your words. Give her my blood.
I can't. It'll kill her.
Lena tried to focus her vision, but darkness swallowed her. When she woke again, nausea assailed her just before an oddly soothing cold settled into her bones. She was too tired to fight against the darkness.
Shit! I'm losing her!
Give her my blood. Now!
The large man demanded, his tone brooking no disagreement. Lena fought for breath, and the effort was too difficult. She was tired, so tired. Gasping for air was almost more than she could muster as darkness flickered all around her, drowning out the pink, ethereal light. A small pinch in her arm, like a needle, caught her attention right before pain soared through her, fully rousing her from her unconscious state. Lena cried out as acid filled her veins and burned her flesh. Every breath was a dagger to her lungs, every heartbeat a relentless pulse that forced the boiling blood through her body until the pain blurred into a deafening ring in her ears. But underneath the scorching in her veins, she sensed something. Something other? Oh, God, nothing would ever be the same. She would never be the same. In the moment between life and death, she grasped for meaning in the chaos, but all she found was a stranger's blood and her own fear. Please let my girls be safe. Please.
Hush, Haran. Your bantlings are well. You must calm yourself, else you will go into a cardiac arrest. The pain from being given my blood will ease. Breathe.
The deep voice seeped into her mind with psychic reassurance. It was the man that spoke with such authority earlier. He brought sanity to her jumbled thoughts, and a comfortable warmth blanketed her as if someone were trying to soothe her from inside of her very being. My girls. Where are they?
They're sleeping, completely unaware of what is transpiring.
I heard Sasha cry. Is she okay?
Quite well. She will remember nothing. Quiet your mind. Sleep.
Those phantom hands were on her body again. Her sightless eyes drifted shut against her will. The sensation of floating. A shrill noise echoed in the air. Then, darkness once again.
Space. Charity. Camille stared moodily at the ceiling, his thoughts not for the female who lay naked and slumbering beside him. Kiara, the Beta Dracona doctor, whom Noah gifted him with 3 Earth days ago, spent hours fighting for the Ind-Earth woman's life. Kiara's every medical skill was tested as she fought to save the lady, and in so doing earned Camille's respect. Yet now he only longed for her to leave his bed. Rising quietly to dress, Camille glared at the lithe, curvaceous female. It was almost time to wake the twins, who slept a few doors down. There was no wisdom in allowing the bantlings to see a woman rising from his bed. "Kiara, it is time. You must go." The synthesized sun had not yet risen in the Khal habitat, yet he'd had enough of the female and her irksome allure. That she used it against his will angered him. When she did not stir, he raised his voice. "Kiara, awaken." Like a sinewy snake, the Beta Dracona stretched her limbs. Yellow eyes with red flecks opened and trained on him, and a satisfied smile slithered across her full mouth.
Good morning.
"It is time," he said again. "You must leave."
Do you need help?
She asked.
I can order the twins' breakfast while you get ready.
"Nay, there is no need. I will care for them." Pouting, Kiara donned her grey and white medical uniform.
I can help you, Kryden.
"I am not prone to repeating my directives, Kiara." His tone was harsh, every bit of his impatience clear. Camille did not count himself as callous, yet the woman was a bane he no longer wished to suffer. He counted the days until her estrus would pass, and she set him free of her allure. Thank the Eternal One for the foods that kept them all from producing progeny, from circumstances such as these. After Kiara left, Camille made his way down the hall to where the bantlings slept. He silently thanked his sister, who had the forethought to dress the twins in the clothing they would need that day before putting them to bed. This was a most uncomfortable situation. The bantlings did not wake easily, and eventually Camille gave up, lifted them in his arms, and made his way to the control room. Sasha refused to be put down, yet Layla assumed his commander's seat and promptly began drooling on the armrest in slumber. The indignity. Shortly after the accident on Earth, Camille sent an emissary to Noah. A mere nicety, as Camille held no allegiance to Earth. Yet, Noah was friend enough that Camille felt it just to inform him of what transpired with the crash. Camille did not expect Noah's response. Noah decreed the 3 females needed to be taken aboard Charity, and that they should remain permanent cargo. Camille did not understand the need for such drastic action, yet he would not balk. It was no hardship to keep the females aboard Charity. The adult victim of the near-fatal crash called out to him repeatedly in her unconscious state, sending garbled messages into his mind. Even in her stupor, she clung to her memory of him. In her mind, he was larger than life, her protector, a man with a booming voice who controlled the chaos around her and brought her to safety. She expected he would allow no harm to come to her while she lay defenseless. It both humbled him and annoyed him. With no concept of reality or time, she often called for his attention at inopportune moments. Camille could not fault her for seeking reassurance. The injuries she sustained were his fault, and so he would care for her as was just. If only Olaf lived. A frown marred his forehead, crinkling his branding. Camille had often held Olaf as a bantam, had fed him, and once even changed his soiled swaddling clothes. He wanted to rail and find fault with any he could, simply to release his rage upon them, to force someone to hurt as he did. Yet he could not, would not even if he could. The ORED completed their investigation and found no signs of foul play. Olaf died of natural causes. Humans died, they always died. It was no fault of their own. Humans were frail, temporary, mortal.
Are you there?
Lena's voice floated softly inside of Camille's mind, and he welcomed the distraction. Always. How do you fare?
Are you real?
Quite real.
What's your name? I should know that. You've told me before. I know you have.
The frustration and sadness in those words tugged at him, and Camille softened towards the in-earth. He focused his energy, then rather than repeating himself, he imprinted them onto her mind, so she would not forget again. I am Camille Vordlund and Kavan, one of Khal. I am addressed as Kaivan. You now belong to my clan.
Yes, I remember now. Thank you. My name is Lena.
Camille rolled his eyes when he realized that he had never asked her name. He supposed this was good information for him to have, considering.
Where am I?
She asked. You are aboard Charity, a ship capable of interstellar travel, receiving medical ministry by my people. 'Twas another question she asked repeatedly. He knew he would repeat his answer many more times until she was no longer sedated. Yet the woman was a novice in this psychic ability to converse with him, and he could not continually imprint things on her mind. Psychic connections were dangerous for the untutored.
Oh, that's cool.
His lips twitched at her serene acceptance, due, he knew, to the curatives flowing through her blood. Indearths were skeptical of life from other planets. What would her unfiltered reaction be upon awakening? The amusement died away. Once she was well, it would be unseemly to continue sharing their thoughts in this manner. It would give him an unfair advantage over her, an advantage he wanted, yet would not accede to. His oath to protect without coercion forbade it. Lena's cloudy confusion whirled within Camille. One moment she was nearly fully aware of her situation, and in the next her consciousness swayed, splintering apart until she didn't know what was real or what was dream. "I will come to you now. Rest easy." He retreated from her mind and raised his mental guard. As the woman had no real understanding of her psychic ability, she often flooded him with her emotions. Her confusion could infect his thinking, and he did not relish the idea of wandering aimlessly should he get lost. "Charity, summon my sister to me." Penina arrived quickly, eager for an opportunity to be with the twins. As he transferred the sleeping Sasha into his sister's arms, the bantling woke and clung to him, innocent eyes filled with fear at being separated from him. Bantlings, even in-earth bantlings, found comfort in him, ever drawn to his light. They knew him for what he truly was. It made rescuing them easy, for they did not fear him. He himself freed them from the mangled chariot. Taking one look at him, the girlings clung to him easily, touching his face and hair in awe. In return he filled them with his light, gently lulling them into a restful sleep. Their little heads fell to his shoulders, in sweet, peaceful slumber. Since that moment they wished for no other to guard them, and did not easily separate from him. They were with him always. Tisking softly, Penina encouraged,
"Come, Hurtley Far. I will care for you. We will play a game, do you wish? Come."
For a moment the bantling's eyes glistened with tears. Camille was struck by her tiny face as she looked up at him with such pleading.
"I want my mama."
Camille smiled patiently, kissed the girling's tiny forehead and said, "I pray soon you will be reunited. I will return to the grants the moment I am able. My oath." Bravely blinking away her tears, the girling shifted her weight and went to Penina. He noted the slight tremble of her chin before she tucked her face into Penina's neck. Poor sweet bantling. As he walked through the ministry doors, Camille was most relieved Kiara had yet to make an appearance. Instead, his old friend Avum, the chief medical minister, sat at her workstation. An average woman with pretty pale hair and clear pale blue eyes, Avum was an accomplished minister, and Camille shared a long, comfortable history with her. So he sat next to her, tugging a lock of her hair gently. She attempted a smile, despite her tear-stained face and reddened eyes. Empathy filled him as his fingers grazed her cheek. "You should rest, Avum. Go grieve for your son." Avum's breath shuddered, rocking her frame.
"I can cry no more, Cliven. I must keep busy."
"Olaf was a good man," Camille said. "May the all ease your suffering." Avum gave him a tight-lipped smile and turned to her work. Camille hesitated. While he grieved Olaf's loss, there was naught he could do to heal Amoda's heart. "If there is aught I can do, please, inform me."
"Can you bring him back?"
His chest constricted. "With all my being. I wish it so. Shall I give you my light?"
"Nay, please, leave me to my work."
Camille squeezed her shoulder and left. When he reached the bed upon which Lena lay, Camille allowed his eyes to travel over her. Her color had improved, and her minor injuries were already healed, although medical equipment was attached to various parts of her tiny form. He cursed the Maravana. Had it not been for their spiteful jealousy, he would still have the ALF healings. That device would have had Lena on her feet and in perfect health within hours of being laid within it. Those bastards had not only killed half of his population, but had stolen the machine and left the remainder of his people struggling to survive the aftermath. Camille, though, was no pacifist lead. He exacted vengeance with little concern for collateral damage and an eye to maximum destruction. The Maravana ship and all its crew were no more. He shook those bloody memories away and focused on the sedated woman. She was small by Ka'al standards, yet perhaps average height for an Indearth female. Long, black, ringlet curls were tamed into a braid that lay draped over one shoulder, the hair so long it reached her waist. Curly tendrils escaped, framing her forehead and face. Her hair alone was quite pleasing to look upon, yet when he took in the whole of her, he was forced to admit her loveliness. Her skin was a rich golden brown with a hint of burnished tones, a heart-shaped face, adorned with brows that were straight slashes above her eyes and lifted mischievously at the ends. A pert nose with a slight flare complemented bow-shaped lips that, though not overly plump, looked sweet and soft. Her slim neck bore a scar from ear to ear. Anger pulsed within him at the evidence of attempted murder. Camille could not fathom such. She was woman. She was Modder. He noted another scar on one of her slim forearms that laid over the temperature-controlled blankets used to ward off shock. The scar traveled up high, deforming the musculature, making a deep indent in her bicep, and disappearing toward her shoulder, which was covered by the medical gown. On her other arm, he noted colorful art painted on her skin. He wondered what significance the art held. It was a bird of some kind, surrounded by fire. Both arms were well-muscled, and her small hands were not the hands of a pampered lady. There were faint scars there as well, littering her knuckles and fingers. He suspected if he turned her hands over, he would note calluses on the pads. Camille ignored the urge to remove her blanket and further inspect her for more scars and artwork. It would be improper to look upon her while she lay so vulnerable. Yet the woman had a tale to tell, a violent tale. Was she in danger? Was she a criminal? The curatives flowing through her veins would temper much of her character and carnal nature. The wildness he felt within her could very well be a shadow of more violent tendencies. Or, perhaps, the wildness was born of her need to be saved. He took stock of the time he spent in her mind, yet she left no darkness within him. He concluded she needed his protection, the one thing he had been created to do. He could provide her that protection. A small sound from the machine helping her to breathe caught his attention. She was attempting to rouse herself from her medicated slumber to breathe on her own. He opened his mind and eased his calming influence into her. When she settled, the blinking light steadied. Camille allowed his fingers to trace lightly over the scar on her arm as he noted her remarkable healing progress. Her brain had swollen so severely from its injury there was need to remove a portion of her skull. Mere hours later the swelling receded, her skull cap replaced. There were no visible scars where the minister's blade cut into her skin. One lung had been punctured so severely it needed to be reconstructed. Again, within hours of surgery, her skin was seamless. No fresh scars. Superhuman healing. Earthborn she may be, yet in dearth she was not. Relief. He did not relish being bound by Undie to a human. A gentle butting in his mind made him aware of her once again. She was looking for him, seeking his comfort and company. Tell me, what can I do for you, Sharon?
What does Charon mean?
'Tis an endearment. How do you feel?
Why can't I move?
We're keeping you in a medicated semi-stasis to help you heal. He feared her memory might be affected after all this, despite Avam's claims. A few more days, I am assured, and we can fully revive you. It is why you struggle with your thoughts. Drugs make you loopy, I believe is the English word.
Are my daughters okay?
Quite hale.
Am I going to die?
Nay. The denial was vehement in him as he looked down at her. What a travesty it would be if she lost her life due to his negligence. Her mind drifted, and Camille stayed longer than intended, comforted by her nearness. Too soon it was time to leave. Even Carl needed sleep. Yet as he rose from his seat, her voice floated into him.
Don't leave. Here, pet the cat, but don't touch her whiskers. The butterfly will cry.
Camille just barely held back a sardonic retort, yet sent his words patiently. I will not leave. Here I will stay until you open your eyes.
Don't take me back.
The sudden fear in her voice startled Camille. Her mind was frantic as panic rose inside of her. He stretched his arms so that his hands hovered inches above her head and let his inner light free. Security and warmth poured from him in a soft stream, illuminating her body with an inner glow. When she was calm, he settled back and asked, Why do you not wish to return? This time her voice was a sedate melodic flow, completely at odds with the words she sent.
Oh, well, because it's dangerous. Bad things happen there.
Camille's brow furrowed as he looked once again upon her scars. Like what, Lena? What bad things happen?
Promise me you'll keep me and my girls here.
According to Noah, Camille had no choice, and there was the matter of the Anthe. Of course he would keep her. You asked for asylum?
Yes, please.
Tell me what you fear. She was gone. Camille headed back into the receiving room of the ministry. Perhaps Avam would have answers. The minister activated the patient log and searched for the information Camille requested. A moment later, The transparent screen lit up with letters and numbers that made no sense to someone who did not work in medical ministry. The little sound pricked his curiosity.
As you know, she is healing remarkably. In fact, I would say she isn't healing as much as regenerating.
Avon touched the screen, scrolling through the report. Camille looked, but could not make heads or tails of what it all meant, and his patience grew thin. Tell me.
By the Eternal One, her blood is powerful.
I suspected, he murmured dryly.
There is barely any trace of corruption except in the most recent maternal lines. Her mother was part Indearth, yet her sire. She is a direct descendant, but that cannot be. No one would abuse the progeny of Saphira.
Camille did not know what jest the Eternal One played in putting a descendant of such an ancient bloodline in his path. What more, in making her the catalyst to his anthe. Yet he would not question it. His mind was too busy conjuring images of the scars he witnessed upon Lena's person as her plea for asylum replayed in his mind. Abuse?
Ikravan here.
Avon pointed to some acronyms.
Someone severely neglected her as a bantam. She went hungry so often, her bones and brain were affected. With her ability to regenerate, it is not her current biological structure which tells her tale, but her cells. If she were wholly in dearth, the lady would not have survived infancy. As she grew older, the abuse became physical. Her body scans show many old injuries.
Knowing just enough biology to understand common terms, as a man of political bent rather than scientific, Camille was thankful for Avon's courtesy of speaking in plain terms. She pointed again.
Here shows more recent injuries.
Avon viewed the screen with dispassion, forgetting to whom she was speaking, oblivious to the impact her words had upon him.
Her muscle tone and bone density speak of an athlete or a warrior. She suffered trauma, perhaps. A few months ago, a blast of some sort. She should have died then as well. Almost all of her internal organs were affected, along with broken bones.
A blast?
Aye, Craven.
He hesitated at the icy glare of her expression. Is there more, Avon? More that I should know?
She carries the blood of Sariel, though what that relation is remains unclear. We are attempting to break down and read more into her DNA, yet it is too dense even for our capabilities. The blood of Saphira always takes time. We could only cipher Sariel's blood as we have his genetic material archived. There is another line of Saphira as well. Whomever it is will need to be researched. I will send a transmission out to neighbouring ships. Perhaps they will have the answers we need.
His brows drew together sharply, and his body stiffened. Sariel. The Sariel. Avon nodded once. Royalty. And not some cloddish terror-bound royal family. Damn the all. She was a bloody watcher by birth. Chosen. But chosen for what? Seal her bloody record. As of now, you and Kiara are the only ones to have access to her. I will not have mass panic demanding public execution. Avon shrugged her acceptance. Mind reeling, Camille walked back into the convalescent room. Lena was well and truly asleep, beyond even the dream world. The woman held none of the characteristic features of her exalted line, other than her burnished skin and night-coloured hair. He wondered why she had been travelling at such a time of night with two bantlings. Was she and her progeny in danger? It would certainly be no new circumstance for one of her ilk, or apparent past of abuse. Her fear was palpable as she sought his reassurance. She did not know where she was, nor what was happening around her. All she seemed to grasp was that she was in a hospital, a modern English word he did not understand, though it gave her comfort. It was well he found her. She obviously needed caring for.
You left me.
Only for a moment. I was checking on your progress with the doctor.
Progress, a relative term at this point.
Nay, you are doing well, he assured her.
I'm going to live.
Aye.
Thank you, Craven.
Her attempt at calling him by his title gave him pause. With her poor pronunciation, she inadvertently called him husband, and the mistake made him grin wryly. I receive your gratitude, and please, call me Camille, I prefer it.
They're a handful, you know,
she said, referring to the twins. So my sister claims, yet no hassles have they given me.
You're sure I'm going to be okay?
Aye, your father passed you his gift for healing.
My father.
A bitter laugh floated in his mind.
That man gave me nothing but a death sentence.
What Camille remembered of Sariel was not in keeping with the woman's words. Sariel was many things questionable, a delinquent father not being among them, which meant Sariel could not be her father. The progeny of Sariel loved and revered him.
Why can't I move?
You were made full of curatives to keep you still so you may heal.
There are so many horses here. Why is that tree pink?
Why do you seek asylum, Lena?
Where are my girls?
With my sister. What do you fear?
Are they...
She was gone. Bound by his word, Camuel shifted with mild annoyance until he was comfortable in the ridiculous chair by her bedside. His gaze settled on her delicate features one last time, before drifting closed.
Faded memories of bright lights, loud noises, and pain filled her drugged consciousness. My girls? Where are my girls? She tried running to them but was trapped. She sobbed out loud. Footsteps sounded, and a comforting, cool hand soothed her brow.
Shh, calm down.
The soft feminine voice held a reassuring note.
It's okay, you're safe now.
Lena came to confused wakefulness, and in a panic, she flailed wildly. Sasha, Layla, girls, are you okay? Someone slipped their hand into hers, and Lena clasped onto it like a lifeline. I have 2 little girls in the back seat. Are they okay?
Yes, lady, they're just fine. We rescued you. We've got you in a nice, cozy bed.
Were they hurt? Lena whispered.
Bumps and bruises only. They're perfectly healthy. Open your eyes. You're safe.
Lena took a breath and slowly opened her eyes, then gasped. It wasn't pain that caused her to gasp. It was her eyesight, and maybe her mind. She never expected to wake up to a face tinted green. Those eyes, yellow with red flecks. Contacts? Lena smirked and closed her eyes tiredly. Must have been some party. You Roswellians are pretty creative. I love your makeup. Some time passed in quiet when Lena's eyes closed, her mind floating in the way of a person waking from a medicated sleep. When she opened her bleary eyes, she met the oddly pretty gaze of the stranger. The other woman blinked in apparent curiosity, and Lena froze.
I'm not wearing makeup,
the woman said. Blink again, Lena whispered disbelievingly.
I forgot for a moment you were raised as an in-dearth,
the woman said with a grin and an obliging blink. Just for good measure, the pale green woman blinked again.
Trippy, huh?
Lena sat up abruptly. Again. Instead of taking offense, the other woman obeyed, blinking one more time. Lena watched in wonder as the pale green woman with the slightly darker band of green across her brow blinked her odd eyes exactly the way a reptile would. Then, showing off, the woman stuck her tongue out. It fluttered teasingly just before it shot forward and touched Lena's nose lightly. Lena gasped again, her hand covering her nose, and jerked back. Did you just boop me with your tongue?
I sure did.
The other woman chuckled as she stared at Lena, gauging her reaction while she took her pulse. I...
It's okay,
said the woman.
I've never met a completely terror-bound human before. I think we're each other's first.
All Lena could do was stare. Taking pity on Lena's confused state of mind, the pale green woman explained.
Oh, all right, my lady. Let's just get to the meat and potatoes, shall we? We hit your car with one of our foragers when we lost control. Your girls were fine, but you almost died, so we didn't have a choice but to bring you aboard. I'm Kiara, newly a citizen of this ark, but born and raised in good old New Mexico. And yes, I'm a reptoid human hybrid, a beta dracona. I'm also the pediatrician for, well, the entire ship for now.
Ship? Ship. What couldn't she remember? She knew she was on a ship, didn't she? Or had that been a dream? Her brow furrowed as a wisp of something tickled her memory. Charity. Kiara grinned broadly.
Yes! This vessel is a charity ark and has a significant history, and tales of heroism tied to it. I was born and raised on Earth, but until a few days ago, I never left the confines of Area 51. Well, the real Area 51. Not that backdrop the government built to convince the locals we just test jet engines and stuff. I mean, we do that too. But, you know, anyway, we're maybe like, a bajillion miles from Earth. Well, really, I don't know how far we are. This star travel stuff is beyond me. I know we're behind the moon, though.
When Kiara looked as if she would continue speaking, Lena waved her hand in denial, her eyes wide and disbelieving. You sound like a fucking lunatic. Kiara cocked a perfectly arched brow, then slithered her tongue and blinked for effect.
Do I?
Lena's mouth dropped open. I can't.
I knew you would be difficult to convince. Humans are still struggling to believe they aren't alone. I was raised around this stuff, and it totally trips me out. I'm actually on charity. To you, maybe it doesn't hold much significance, but it's awesome, in the old world sense of the word.
Lena took a shuddering breath, then without warning, leaped from the bed. Where are my daughters? If Kiara was surprised by her outburst, she gave no indication. She watched with amused curiosity as Lena searched the ministry.
I don't think the Ka'al would hide a couple of kids in a medicine cabinet. Although,
She laughed.
stranger things have happened.
I'm looking for my clothes, smartass. Lena spun around in agitation, then stilled. The word Kal cracked in her head like a gong. She fell to her knees as sudden pain exploded in her head, and a voice sounded in her mind like a distant but very tangible memory.
I'm Kamul Vodlun, und Kravan, un of Ka'al. I'm addressed as Craven. You now belong to my clan.
The message was concentrated. The voice itself existed inside of her mind, imprinted solidly, branded there like a tethering. Foreign sensations of psychic energy roiled throughout her body. She doubled over to fight against it, even as her stomach clenched at the unfamiliar vibrations. Her hands covered her ears, attempting to block out the powerful male voice, but it proved too much for her small frame, forcing sickness to rise up and spew all over the floor. Lena wiped her mouth and asked in a hoarse voice, "Who is Kamyol?" The self-proclaimed reptoid hybrid clucked a mild reprimand.
Oh, we don't call him by name. We address him as Craven.
Lena shook her head. He doesn't like it when I call him that. How do I know that? He spoke to me. I can hear his voice inside my head. His words. They're imprinted inside me. That's impossible. Kiara's brow shot up and her mouth formed a small O before she collected herself.
He gave you his blood to help ensure your survival. It makes sense you're connected on a deeper level. Think of the Ka'al as, well, they're sort of like a physiological Wi-Fi. They can communicate telepathically. With his blood coursing through your veins, it seems plausible. It would open up a line of communication between you.
No. Lena's denial was more forceful now. This can't be real. This is crazy. I'm still drugged up. Kindness appeared in those yellow eyes.
Well, yes, you definitely still have plenty of drugs in your system. But look at me, lady. Really look at me. If what I say is a lie, how could I be real?
What appeared to be laser light came from the floor, scanning the sickness, then foam bubbled up around it as the lights continued to move back and forth. A moment later, the sickness was gone. Lena's mouth gaped. Kiara took Lena's arm and guided her to the bed.
Get some rest. Give yourself time to digest what you've been told. I'll bring you the clothes we found in your car.
Numbly, Lena sat on the bed. The male voice in her head kept pinging around inside of her mind. The energy of the branding sapped at her inexperienced body, draining her of energy so quickly a spark of fear bloomed. Kiara's voice took on a buzzing quality. The room wobbled, and it was only cool, reptilian hands that kept Lena from pitching forward.